Namaste and good morning. Welcome to the SolaAne.com Daily Brief, your daily dose of business news that matters. I'm your host, and today is Thursday, April 3rd, 2026. Markets are closed for Good Friday, but the news doesn't stop. Let's dive into what's moving the business world today. First up, here are today's top headlines. Headline 1. President Trump marks the one-year anniversary of Liberation Day by slapping 100% tariffs on branded pharmaceutical imports. Indian pharma companies are watching closely. Headline 2. Brent crude oil is sitting at $109 a barrel as the Iran conflict continues to rattle global energy markets. India, which imports 40% of its crude from the Middle East, is feeling the heat. Headline 3. India's UPI digital payment system just logged a record 22.64 billion transactions in March. That's nearly 730 million transactions every single day. Now let's take a deeper look at the stories that matter most to your business. Our first deep dive, Trump's new tariff salvo and what it means for Indian exporters. Exactly 1 year ago, President Trump stood in the White House Rose Garden and announced sweeping, reciprocal tariffs on what he called Liberation Day. Fast forward to yesterday, and he's marked the anniversary with a fresh round of duties, this time 100% tariffs on branded pharmaceutical imports and revised tariffs on steel, aluminum, and copper. Now, here's the context. The original Liberation Day tariffs were struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court in February this year. The court ruled that Trump's use of emergency powers to impose those tariffs was unconstitutional. The government collected $166 billion from over 330,000 businesses, money it now has to refund. For India specifically, a bilateral trade deal signed in February brought tariffs down from the earlier 50% to 18%. That deal remains in place, but the new pharma tariffs are a different story. India is the pharmacy of the world. We export billions in generic drugs to the US. Now, the new 100% tariff specifically targets branded pharmaceuticals, so generic drug makers may not be directly hit. But if you're in the pharma supply chain, raw materials, packaging, logistics, keep a close eye on how this plays out. The US could expand the scope. For MSME exporters in other sectors, the key takeaway is this. The 18% tariff deal with India is holding, but the trade environment remains unpredictable. If you export to the US, this is the time to diversify your buyer base. Our second deep dive, oil at $109 and the RBI's balancing act. Brent crude is hovering near $109 a barrel today, driven entirely by the ongoing conflict involving Iran. The Strait of Hormuz, through which a significant chunk of global oil flows, remains effectively constrained. For India, this is a serious concern. We import about 85% of our crude oil, and 40% of that comes from the Middle East. The rupee has already taken a beating. It touched a record low of nearly 94 against the dollar in March, depreciating over 4% in just 1 month. And now, all eyes are on the Reserve Bank of India. The RBI's Monetary Policy Committee meets next week, April 6th to 8th. The repo rate currently sits at 5.25%. While CPI inflation was a comfortable 3.21% in February, the imported inflation risk from oil prices and the weak rupee changes the picture entirely. Most analysts expect a guarded pause, no rate cut, no hike, but a much harder tone on inflation vigilance. What does this mean for your business? If you were hoping for cheaper loans, that's on hold for now. If you're in a business that depends on imported raw materials, fuel, chemicals, metals, your costs are going up. The smart move is to lock in supplier contracts now, hedge your forex exposure if you can, and build a buffer into your pricing. Now, here's some good news to balance things out. India's new Income Tax Act officially took effect on April 1st. This is the first complete overhaul of our tax system since 1961. That's 65 years. The new law simplifies the language, removes redundant provisions, and introduces the concept of a single tax year instead of the confusing financial year and assessment year distinction. For MSME owners, the key changes are Meal vouchers up to 200 rupees per day are now tax-free for your employees. HRA exemption at 50% has been extended to include Bengaluru, Pune, Hyderabad, and Ahmedabad, alongside the existing 4 metros, and ITR filing has been simplified with fewer forms and clearer rules. This is a genuine ease of doing business improvement. On digital payments, UPI processed a staggering 22.64 billion transactions in March, worth 29.53 lakh crore rupees. That's 24% growth year-on-year. What's exciting is that Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities are now driving most of the growth, and the average transaction size has climbed to around 1,300 rupees, meaning UPI is no longer just for chai and auto payments. It's becoming the backbone of serious business transactions. If your MSME isn't fully UPI enabled yet, you're leaving money on the table. And finally, India's defense exports hit a record 38,424 crore rupees in FY26, a 63% jump over the previous year. We're now exporting defense equipment to over 80 countries, with the private sector contributing 45% of those exports. If you're in precision manufacturing, electronics, or aerospace components, the defense supply chain is a massive opportunity worth exploring. So what does all this mean if you're running a business in India today? First, brace for higher input costs. Oil at $109 will ripple through everything from transport to packaging to raw materials. Review your pricing and supplier contracts now, not later. Second, the US trade environment remains volatile. If you're an exporter, diversify your markets. Look at Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. Third, take advantage of the new tax simplifications. Talk to your CA about the updated rules. There might be savings you're not aware of. And fourth, go digital. UPI's record numbers prove that digital payments are now the default for Indian consumers. Make sure your business is ready for that reality. That's your 16-AN daily brief for today. If you're thinking about buying or selling a business, head over to solaane.com, that's 16ane.com, where we make business deals sola ane paka. Enjoy your long weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.